Okay, let's dig into this. You know that feeling, right? When you're scrolling. Maybe Instagram, maybe a high-end travel magazine, and you see an image that just, I don't know, it stops you cold.
The drone shot, it's almost always a drone shot.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The water is that impossible electric turquoise color.
Blindingly white sand, if there's any sand at all.
Right. And these jagged, almost prehistoric-looking limestone islands just popping out of the sea. And the key thing is, there's no one else there. Not a single person or a boat or even a beach umbrella in the frame.
It's the screensaver aesthetic. It's the image we all put on our desktop backgrounds when we're stuck in an office on a rainy Tuesday.
It is. It represents the ultimate escape.
Relaxed paradise.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And today we are doing a deep dive into the place that you could argue kind of invented that look. We're talking about Misool in Raja Ampat, Indonesia. But, and this is really big but, we're not here to sell you a vacation package.
No, definitely not.
We're here to analyze a very specific and honestly a very gritty report. It's titled Misool 2026, The High Cost of the Last Paradise. And I have to say, going through these documents, the thing that jumped out at me immediately wasn't the beauty, it was the contradiction.
It is a massive contradiction. It's almost startling when you read the fine print. I mean, on page 1 of the source material, you get these incredible descriptions of a pilgrimage to the center of marine biodiversity.
A holy grail for divers, I think it said.
Yeah, exactly. A place that looks like the Earth before the Anthropocene. It's poetic, really.
But then you flip the page.
You flip to the logistics and operations section, and suddenly it reads like a warning label on a bottle of hazardous chemicals.
It really does. It goes from heaven on earth to logistical headache in like the blink of an eye. The report lays it out so starkly. To get to this one specific spot in 2026, you're looking at burning 4 separate flights.
4 flights minimum.
Then you're dealing with a grim industrial port city that apparently smells of diesel and clove cigarettes.
Not exactly paradise.
Not yet. Then you have to endure a speedboat ride that the locals affectionately call the Vomit Comet.
A name that inspires confidence.
And you're spending roughly $10,000 before you even get your toes wet.
And that's the headline figure that just stops people in their tracks. $10,000 and, 4 days of travel just to arrive.
Right. Which brings up the central conflict we really want to explore in this deep dive.
Yeah.
The core question is, in 2026, with prices just skyrocketing, with bureaucracy getting tighter, and with the actual physical risks involved, is the isolation of Misool really worth it?
Is the payoff worth the cost, the risk, and the sheer physical punishment it takes to get there?
Because let's be absolutely clear, and the sources are so emphatic about this point, this is not a typical vacation.
No.
If you're picturing a frictionless, sanitized resort experience where you snap your fingers and a pina colada magically appears,
You are going to be in for a very, very rude awakening.
we're talking about jagged limestone, not soft white sand beaches.
We're talking about currents they call washing machines.
And total, utter isolation.
It's an expedition. That's the word the report uses over and over, and I think that is the perfect framing for it.
You're not going on holiday.
You're launching an expedition. And our mission today is to unpack the reality of that expedition. We're going to break down this high cost of the last paradise report. We'll look at the specific 2026 pricing tiers.
We're going to analyze the safety traps that Instagram influencers conveniently forget to mention.
And really get into the weeds of what eco-luxury actually means and feels like when you are that far off the grid.
Okay, so let's start with the geography, because I think there's a huge misconception here. I'll admit, before reading this, if you said Raja Ampat, I just pictured one big, beautiful blob on the map of West Papua.
And that's the most common confusion point. It's a mistake that leads to a lot of disappointed or at least surprised travelers. The source material draws a very sharp, very important line between Raja Ampat in general and Misool specifically.
So they're not the same thing.
Not at all in terms of the experience. Most of what you see online, the backpackers, the budget homestays, the cheaper boats, that is all happening in the north, in a region called the Dampier Strait.
Okay, so paint us a picture of the north. What's that like?
The north is the hub. It's the accessible part. You fly into the main airport in Sorong. You can take a big public ferry to the capital of the Regency, which is a town called Waisai.
Okay.
And from there, hundreds of little boats can take you to hundreds of little homestays. It's busy.
Busy, ow.
In 2026, the report describes the north as having a constant hum of outboard engines.
Oh, wow.
You're underwater, trying to appreciate the silence of the reef, and you can hear propellers going by overhead. You surface, and there are 5, maybe 6 other dive boats on the exact same site as you.
So it's beautiful, but it's shared.
It's spectacular, yes, but it is crowded.
And Misool, then, is the opposite.
Misool is the south. Geographically, it's separated by a really significant stretch of open and often rough sea. The report describes Misool as a stronghold. It feels prehistoric.
A stronghold.
It's significantly harder to reach, it's much more protected, and it is, without a doubt, the center of the high-end eco-resort market.
You don't just stumble upon Misool.
No, it is not on the way to anywhere else. The report calls it a cul-de-sac in the ocean. You have to want to go there.
That word stronghold is so powerful. It implies, defense. It implies there are walls up.
And in a way there are. The walls are distance, cost, and logistics. But because of those walls, you have this incredible conservation success story that makes the place famous in the first place.
This is the why behind the hype.
This is why people endure the vomit comet to get there. It's all about the Misool Marine Reserve.
The no-take zone the report gets into.
Exactly. This is a private marine reserve established about 2 decades ago in partnership with the local community. And no-take means exactly what it sounds like.
No fishing.
No fishing of any kind. No shark finning, which used to be rampant there. No collecting shells. No harvesting turtle eggs.
So for 20 years, this massive patch of ocean,
It's about 300,000 acres, has been essentially left alone to recover.
and the result isn't just, oh, there are more fish, is it? The report uses this specific term, biomass.
Right, and that's the key concept. Biomass is a scientific term. It just refers to the total weight of living things in a given area.
Okay.
In most of Southeast Asia, even in places that look really pretty on the surface, the biomass is critically low. You might see colorful coral, but the big fish, the predators, the schools, they've all been fished out.
That's what marine biologists call empty reef syndrome.
That's it. It looks like a beautiful garden, but there are no animals in it. It's eerily quiet.
And Misool.
Misool is the polar opposite. The biomass figures are, and I'm quoting, off the charts. The report describes it as fish soup.
Fish soup, I like that.
Because nothing is being taken out, the entire food chain is fully intact, and it's just stacked on top of itself.
So what does that actually look like when you're in the water?
It means you have clouds of tiny baitfish, millions of them, so thick they block out the sun. Those are being hunted by swarms of fusiliers and snappers. Those are being hunted by giant trevally and tuna, and all of those are being hunted by reef sharks and giant oceanic mantas.
So it's not a polite viewing of nature. It's chaotic.
It's visceral. You can feel the density of life. The water feels alive. And listeners really need to understand how rare that is. In 2026, finding a marine ecosystem that functions like it did in, say, 1950 is almost impossible.
That's what you're buying.
That is what you are buying. You are paying a $10,000 premium to access a time machine.
But, and here's where the report gets really, really interesting for me. There's this friction between that price tag and the actual comfort level. They call it the eco-luxury reality check.
This part is fascinating because I think when people hear they're spending $1,000 a night,
Yeah.
they have a mental model of luxury that involves, excess. They think of the Four Seasons or a resort in Dubai.
Marble bathrooms, 24-hour room service.
Air conditioning you can set to Arctic.
Right. And Misool luxury is
Yeah.
not that.
Not even remotely close. Misool luxury is defined by scarcity and by low impact. The luxury part is the fact that you are there at all, not the amenities in your room.
The report gets into some very specific examples.
It does. For instance, many of these high-end resorts, even the most expensive ones, they use fans instead of air conditioning.
To save power.
To save power. Or if they do have AC, it's low power, and it might only be available for a few hours at night.
And the soap. I loved this detail about the soap.
It's a tiny detail, but it explains the whole philosophy. The report mentions this biodegradable soap that specifically doesn't lather.
It doesn't lather. Why?
Because the chemicals that create suds, they're called surfactants, can be harmful to the coral reef if they wash into the ocean.
Of course.
So you're paying a fortune to stand in a shower that is solar heated.
Which means the hot water is finite.
Totally finite. It might run out if it's been cloudy. And you're trying to wash the salt off your body with soap that feels like oil and doesn't bubble up at all.
That does not sound luxurious.
It's functional.
And let's not forget the humidity. The report cites a constant 98% humidity.
It's pervasive. It's the kind of humidity that doesn't just make you sweat, it actively attacks your belongings.
What do you mean?
The source mentions that if you leave your suitcase zipped up for a few days, your clothes will literally start to grow mold inside it.
Oh, gross.
Your camera lenses will fog up instantly if you take them out of a dry box. Your books will feel damp.
So if you're a person who needs, crisp, dry, climate-controlled environments to feel relaxed,
Misool will break you. It absolutely will.
there's also the isolation factor, but with technology. We're in 2026. Starlink is basically everywhere. You'd assume you could just work remotely from paradise.
And that is a huge trap. The report calls it the connectivity lie.
The connectivity lie.
Yes, the resorts have Starlink, but you have to understand the physics of it. You are on one tiny remote island sharing one satellite dish with 40 other guests and maybe 50 staff members.
So bandwidth throttling.
Severe throttling. The source explicitly says, this is an expedition, not a remote work location.
So don't plan on taking Zoom calls.
If you go there expecting to trade crypto or run a Zoom meeting with your board of directors, you are going to be incredibly frustrated and stressed out. The advice is to embrace the digital detox. You are being forced offline by geography.
Okay, so we've set the scene. You're sticky, your soap doesn't work, you can't check your email, and you're surrounded by sharks.
This is great, doesn't it?
Let's talk about the journey to get there. Part 2 of our breakdown is the logistics of arrival. The report calls this section the filter.
And the filter is the perfect name for it. The journey itself weeds out anyone who isn't 100% committed. It filters out the casual tourists who just want a beach holiday, and it all starts with the gateway city, Sorong.
Sorong. The report does not mince words here.
No, it doesn't.
It's described as a gritty industrial port.
Sorong is the main logistical hub for the entire region of West Papua. That includes the oil and gas industries, mining, logging.
So it's a working city.
It is not a tourist town. Even with some airport upgrades by 2026, the city itself is intense. The report mentions gridlock traffic, open drains, the constant smell of clove cigarettes mixed with diesel fumes, and just oppressive heat. It's functional, not pretty.
And the advice in the report is basically, run.
Pretty much. The advice is do not stay longer than is absolutely necessary. It is a transit point. You fly in, you sleep if you have to, and you get on the boat as fast as you can.
Ah, but the boat. This is where the vomit comet comes in.
Yes.
That is a terrifying nickname for a transfer.
It's a reality check. To get from Sorong to the southern archipelago of Misool, you have to cross the Dampier Strait and then a really significant stretch of open ocean. It's a 4 to 5 hour ride.
In a speedboat.
In a speedboat. This is not a large ferry with stabilizers and a cafeteria.
Right.
We are talking about a vessel with 3 or 4 massive outboard engines strapped to the back, just screaming at 4,000 RPM for 4 solid hours.
And if the sea is rough?
If the sea is rough, it is physically punishing. The report uses the term square waves, which sounds terrifying.
What does that even mean?
I think it means the waves are coming from multiple directions and are very steep. The boat doesn't cut through them, it slams off them over and over.
And the quote.
The quote is, I've seen grown men crying on this crossing.
Just, wow. So it's loud, it's jarring, there are no bathroom breaks.
Or at least none you'd want to attempt while bouncing at 30 knots.
That sounds absolutely horrific. Truly, why do people do this?
Because of what happens at the end. The whole narrative arc of the trip is suffering, followed by redemption. The report describes the arrival moment as one of the most cinematic experiences in travel.
Okay, describe that payoff.
So you've been battered for 4 hours, you're nauseous, you're deafened by the engines, your back hurts, and then suddenly the boat slows down, the high-pitched scream of the engines drops to a low rumble.
And you've arrived.
You've entered the labyrinth of the Misool archipelago. The watercolor changes instantly from that deep, terrifying ocean blue to a glowing electric turquoise.
The waves stop.
It becomes dead calm, like a mirror, and you're surrounded by these towering limestone karsts that are undercut by the tide, so they look like they're floating on the water.
It sounds like entering a cathedral.
It is. It
Yeah.
feels sacred. And then you have the wildlife welcome. This specific detail in the report really got to me.
What was that?
You pull up to the resort jetty. You're tired, you're relieved, you look down over the side of the boat, and right there, patrolling the shallows under the reception desk, are 20 to 30 blacktip reef sharks.
Just hanging out.
Just hanging out. In most places in the world, seeing one shark is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Here, it's the welcoming committee, and it immediately resets your entire perspective. It tells you, you are the visitor. This is their house.
And once you step off that boat, You enter what the report calls the captive phase.
That's the big psychological shift. You have to understand that once that speedboat leaves, you are stranded.
You're stuck.
There is no town, there's no road, there is no 7-Eleven. If you forgot your toothpaste, you're either borrowing some or you're going without.
If your camera charger breaks.
You're not taking any more photos for the rest of the trip. You are completely dependent on the resort for your survival. Nature is the landlord.
That dependency brings us to the segment that makes everyone sweat. The money. Part 3 is the 2026 financial breakdown. The report calls the trip an investment portfolio, which feels very appropriate given the numbers.
It really is an investment.
Yeah.
But before we all gasp at the numbers, we have to understand the why. It's what the report calls the supply chain premium.
Explain that.
Everything you consume in Misool, every single item, has to take that same 4-hour boat ride you just took. Every carrot, every egg, every bottle of beer, every liter of fuel for the generators, every single tank of diving air.
It all comes from Sarong.
Exactly. So you aren't just paying for the item, you're paying for the complex, expensive, and sometimes risky logistics of getting that item to the middle of nowhere.
Okay, so let's get into the costs. First up, the mandatory fees. Before you even book a room, you have to pay to get in.
Right. This is the Tariflayan and Lingkungan. It's the official Raja Ampat Marine Park entry permit.
And in 2026, that costs.
For international visitors, it's 2 million Indonesian rupiah. That's about 130 US dollars.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. It supports the park rangers and conservation efforts, and you have to pay it before you can even enter the park waters.
Okay, so 130 bucks down. No, the big one, accommodation. The report breaks this into high, mid, and low tiers. Let's start at the top. The high band, the eco resorts.
This is the pinnacle. We're talking about places like the famous Misool resort. In 2026, you are looking at pricing between 6,500 and 9,000 US dollars.
Wait. 9,000?
Per person.
Per person. For a week.
For a 7-night stay, yes.
So a couple is dropping close to $20,000 for 1 week.
They are. Now, to be fair, that price usually includes your full board, so all your meals, and your diving package. But if you do the math, the daily burn rate is well over $1,000 per person, per day.
That is just massive. So aside from the sharks under the jetty, what is the value proposition? Why pay that much?
Exclusivity. That is the commodity you're buying. In the busy north, you might dive a famous site and there are 6 other boats there.
Right.
In Misool, at that price point, you are paying for the guarantee that you will be the only boat on the site. You are paying for silence. You're paying to not see other humans.
Okay, let's step down a tier. The mid-band. This is mostly the liveaboards, right?
Yes. Live boards are ships that are basically floating hotels. Often they're the traditional wooden Phoenici schooners, which are beautiful.
And the cost for those.
In 2026, a reputable operator in the South is charging between 450 and 750 US dollars per night per person.
Okay, so a 7-night trip might cost, what, $3,000 to $5,000? Still very expensive, but roughly half the price of the resort.
Exactly. The trade-off is space. You're in a small cabin, often below deck. You're rocking with the ocean all the time.
But the benefit is mobility.
That's the big plus. The hotel moves while you sleep. You wake up at a new, spectacular island every single morning. You get to see much more of the geography.
Now, here's where the report waves a huge, huge red flag. The low band, the homestays. The report calls this the budget illusion.
This is the trap that catches so many people. They go online, they see a homestay, a simple bamboo hut over the water for maybe $80 or $120 a night.
And they think, aha, I've hacked the system.
I can do a Misool on a backpacker budget.
But the math just doesn't hold up.
It completely fails when you factor in the cost of fuel. In the north, the homestays work because the dive sites are 5 minutes away.
But in Misool,
the distances are vast. You might be staying on one island, but the good dive site is a 45-minute boat right away, in a small boat.
and those outboard engines are thirsty.
Incredibly thirsty. And fuel is incredibly expensive because, again, it has to be shipped in from Song. So the homestay has to charge you for the boat ride. A single dive trip can cost $60 to $80 per person, just for the transport.
So if you do 2 or 3 dives a day.
You're adding $200 a day to your $100 room.
Oh, wow.
The report actually runs the numbers. It compares a scrappy budget trip to a mid-range liveaboard. The budget trip, once you add the diving and food and transfers, ends up costing about $2,500 to $3,000 for a week.
And the mid-range liveaboard is maybe $4,500.
Right. So the gap isn't as huge as the room rate suggests, but the comfort gap is massive. In the homestay, you might be sleeping on a thin mattress on the floor, no fan, battling mosquitoes, eating instant noodles and rice. On the live aboard, you've got air conditioning, a chef, hot showers, and a dedicated camera room.
So the verdict is pretty clear.
Misool does not lend itself to budget travel. If you try to do it cheap, you will likely spend a lot of money to be uncomfortable and you won't get to see much.
The takeaway is, bring money. This is not the place to pinch pennies.
Exactly right.
Okay, so let's move to part 4. Operational traps and planning disasters. These are the things that can ruin a trip, even if you can afford it. The report lists 4 specific traps, and trap number 1 is the transfer window.
This is such a classic rookie mistake. I think we're all so used to on-demand services now. Ubers, hourly trains.
You just assume there's another boat coming soon.
Right. But these resort transfer boats, they do not operate like a public ferry service. They operate on fixed schedules.
For example.
For example, the boat leaves every alternate Sunday at 8:00 a.m. sharp. That's it.
And if your flight from Jakarta lands at 8:30 a.m.?
You are in a world of pain. The boat is gone. They will not hold it for you.
And the next one is a week away.
The next scheduled boat might not be for another week.
So what on earth do you do?
You have 2 horrible choices. You can wait a week in Sarong, which nobody wants to do, or you can charter a private speedboat.
Which I'm guessing is not cheap.
The report cites the 2026 cost for a private one-way charter at around $2,000 to $2,500 US.
That is a very, very expensive alarm clock failure.
It's a $2,000 mistake, which is why the report has one absolute unbreakable rule.
Which is?
You must arrive in Sarong a full 24 hours prior to the boat's departure. Do not risk a same-day connection. If your domestic flight is delayed, you miss the boat. It's that simple.
Sleep in the gritty port city for one night. It's your insurance policy?
Exactly.
Okay, trap number 2. The all-inclusive myth.
Yes. You've paid your $8,000 invoice and you think, okay, my wallet can stay in the safe for the week.
But you need to read the fine print.
You have to read the fine print. Typically things like alcohol, soft drinks, special coffee, nitrox air fills for diving, and gear rental are all excluded.
And because of that supply chain premium we talked about.
A single can of Bintang beer can cost $8 to $10.
Wow.
A glass of house wine might be $15. The report tells a horror story of a couple who checked out with a $1,500 bar tab.
Just for beer and nitrox.
Just for beer and nitrox. It's a nasty surprise on departure day.
Always check the exclusions.
Always.
Trap number 3 is the connectivity lie. We touched on this, but the specific advice here is about managing other people's expectations.
Right. The trap isn't that there's no internet. There is. It's just that it's slow and unreliable. The trap is telling your boss, don't worry, I'll check in every evening.
Because you won't be able to.
You won't. When 20 guests all try to upload their 4K underwater videos at 6 p.m. before dinner, the whole network just crashes.
So what's the advice?
Set an auto reply on your email that says, I am offline and unreachable until this date. Tell your family you're going dark. If you set the expectation that you are offline, you'll be happy. If you try to stay connected, you will be stressed.
And finally, trap number 4, gear redundancy. There are no dive shops.
This cannot be overstated. I mean, if you're diving in Cozumel or Thailand and your mask's strap snaps.
You just walk across the street and buy a new one for $20.
Exactly. In Misool, there is no street, there is no shop.
So if your strap snaps,
you are using duct tape? Or you are borrowing a nasty rental from the resort's box of forgotten gear.
The dreaded rental bucket.
We've all been there. A moldy, leaky mask that's been used by 1,000 other people, it can ruin a dive.
So the advice is?
Redundancy. You have to be self-sufficient. Bring 2 of everything that's critical, 2 masks, a spare computer battery, spare fin straps. You are your own support team out there.
Okay, let's transition to something a bit more serious. Part 5, health, safety, and the ags. I got itchy just reading this section.
It's a visceral part of the experience. But let's start with the water risks, because that's the stuff that can actually kill you. Misool is not a swimming pool. The reason the marine life is so incredible is because of the currents.
The currents bring the nutrients, the food.
Exactly. Strong oceanic currents hit these underwater mountains, bringing plankton, which brings the fish. But for a diver, Those same currents are a serious, serious hazard. The report uses terms like washing machine,
Which is exactly what it sounds like.
turbulence, water hitting a submerged pinnacle and just spinning chaotically. It can spin a diver around so fast they lose their orientation, they don't know which way is up.
And then there are the down currents.
A down current, it's the
And
most
you're-
dangerous phenomenon in diving.
How does it work?
Water hits a steep reef wall and has nowhere to go but down, plunging into the deep. It can physically pull a diver from, say, 15 meters depth to 30 or 40 meters in just a few seconds.
And if you panic.
If you panic or you can't equalize your ears fast enough, it is life-threatening.
So this is not for beginners.
Absolutely not. The report says the prerequisite is a minimum of 50 dives, and you must be comfortable with something called negative entries.
Explain a negative entry for the non-divers out there.
Sure. Usually you jump off the boat, you float on the surface for a minute, check your buddy, give the okay sign, and then descend slowly together.
Right.
In a negative entry, the current on the surface is so strong that if you wait, you'll be swept half a mile away from the dive site.
So you have to go down fast.
Immediately, you empty all the air from your buoyancy jacket before you jump. You roll off the boat and you drop like a stone. You have to meet your group at 10 meters deep.
That is high-stakes diving.
It is. Now, on the surface, we have the agus.
The sandflies.
The report says they are smaller than a pixel. You can't see them, you can't hear them, but they swarm in the mangroves and on the beaches, especially at dawn and dusk. They bite viciously.
And it's not like a mosquito bite.
No, a mosquito bite itches for an hour. These bites, they itch for days, weeks even. They can blister, they can ruin your sleep and drive you crazy.
But there is a hack. The report mentions a specific defense mechanism.
The baby oil hack. It's brilliant.
What do?
Before you go to the beach, you slather your legs and arms in baby oil. Because the flies are so tiny they get stuck in the oil and they die before they can bite you.
So it's a passive defense system.
It's messy, you look shiny, sand sticks to you, but it saves your legs from hundreds of bites.
Now, for the most sobering part of the safety briefing, the medical isolation, we talked about it being a stronghold. That works against you if you get sick or hurt.
This is the reality of remote travel that people don't want to think about. If you have a serious medical emergency, a heart attack, a diving accident like decompression sickness,
There's no hospital around the corner.
there is no hospital. The official medical protocol involves a speedboat ride all the way back to Sarong.
That's 4 hours minimum, slamming over waves.
And then a medical evacuation flight to a proper hospital in Bali or Jakarta, which is another 4 to 6 hours in the air.
So you're looking at a minimum of 12 hours before you get definitive medical care.
Minimum. And that's if the weather is good enough for the boat to even run. If there's a storm, you aren't going anywhere.
This is why the report is so insistent on insurance.
Yes. And not just your standard credit card travel insurance. That is not enough. You need specific evacuation insurance, like from Dan, the Divers Alert Network. That covers up to $100,000 US.
Because a private medevac jet will bankrupt you otherwise.
Completely.
Okay, we've talked about the costs, the risks, the vomit comet, the sandflies. We've done a very good job of terrifying everyone.
It does sound a bit grim when you list it all out.
So let's talk about why anyone does this. Part 6, the experience, the highs.
The highs are transcendent. That is really the only word for them. The report describes a specific dive site. It's called Magic Mountain.
Even the name sounds promising.
It's a submerged ridge, basically a mountain peak out in the open ocean. And the description in the source is just incredible. You are fighting a ripping current so strong that you literally have to use a metal reef hook to tether yourself to the rock so you don't get blown away. And then, because of that current, the show starts.
The oceanic mantis.
Oceanic manta rays. And these are different from the smaller reef mantas most people see. These are the giants.
How big are we talking?
6-meter wingspans. That is the size of a large van. And they are gliding effortlessly, just inches over your head, against a current that is trying to rip your mask off your face.
And the interaction is described as being very personal.
Yes. They're intelligent animals. They have the largest brain-to-body ratio of any fish. They look at you. The report mentions locking eyes with a giant manta.
An interspecies connection.
Exactly. And they are surrounded by the rest of the food chain swirling schools of trevally, barracuda, reef sharks everywhere. The report describes it as being chaotic and peaceful at the exact same time.
The writer mentions crying in their mask.
That is the payoff. That is what you bought with your $10,000 and your nausea and your itchy legs. You bought a glimpse of the primordial ocean.
A memory you can't get anywhere else.
A memory that will change your perspective on the planet.
But it's not always magic. We have to be honest about the disappointments.
Absolutely. Weather is the big, uncontrollable variable. The report mentions a trip called The Crossing that never happened.
What's that?
You can pay all this money, get on a live board, and get stuck in a single bay for 3 days because of storms. You can't dive, you can't move the boat, you just sit there rocking back and forth.
And seasonality is key here.
It's critical. July and August are the wind season in the South. The crossing is dangerous, the visibility underwater can be poor, and many dive sites are inaccessible.
It's a massive gamble to go then.
The report strongly advises against it.
And there's a sad note in here about climate reality, too. Even in this last paradise.
Yes, coral bleaching. Even in the world's most protected marine reserve, the report notes that you can see patches of white, dead coral in the shallows.
The rising ocean temperatures.
They're reaching everywhere. 2026 climate realities are visible even in Misool. It adds this layer of, melancholy to the trip. You are seeing it at its peak now because there's a real fear that it might not be here later.
So let's round this out. Part 7. Alternatives and the final verdict.
Yeah.
If a listener is thinking, okay, I can't do the cost or I cannot do that boat ride, what are the options?
The report gives 3 solid alternatives. First and most obvious, go north. North Raja Ampat, the Dampier Strait.
Pros and cons.
Pros, much, much easier logistics. You can take that public ferry to Waisai. It's vastly cheaper. You can find homestays for $40 a night.
And the cons.
The crowds. You will see 10 other boats at the famous dive sites. You completely lose that feeling of isolation. The coral is still great, but the fish soup density is lower because there's just more traffic and fishing pressure nearby.
Okay, alternative 2, Allure.
Allure is fantastic. It's another part of Indonesia, further south, near Timor. It's much quieter. It has a very distinct and wonderful culture, and it's cheaper.
And the diving.
Incredible for macro life. That means small, weird critters, bizarre octopuses, colorful nudie branches. The water is crystal clear. But you don't get the sheer volume of big fish and mantas that you get in Misool. It's a different kind of show.
And alternative 3, Komodo.
Accessible from Bali, which is a huge plus. You get the big Komodo dragons on land, you get mantas underwater, but the water is colder, and if you think the currents in Misool sound bad, Komodo currents can be even crazier. It's very high-energy, advanced diving.
So let's do the matrix, the final verdict. Who should go to Misool? The report breaks this down by traveler profile.
Let's run through them. First up, backpackers.
The verdict.
A hard NO. Financially ruinous. You'll just be stressed about money the whole time and won't be able to afford to do anything. Go to YGO in the north instead. You'll have a much better time.
Okay, mid-range couples.
A solid maybe, but with 2 conditions. 1, go via live aboard. 2, only go if both of you are certified, passionate divers. If one person doesn't dive, they will be trapped on a boat for 7 days with absolutely nothing to do while their partner is having the time of their life. That is a recipe for a breakup.
Good point. What about families?
Conditional. If you have teenage kids who are experienced divers, yes, it will change their lives. An incredible bonding experience.
But if you have toddlers?
Hard pass, an absolute no. It's too dangerous, it's too isolated, and the medical risk is way too high for small children. There is no pediatric care within 500 miles.
And finally, the luxury or obsessive diver.
Yes, 100%. If you have the means and the passion, this is the pinnacle. It is the best money you will ever spend on diving, period.
It sets a benchmark that will ruin every other dive trip you ever take.
It really will.
And the final advice on timing.
October to April. That is the calm season. Avoid the windy months of July and August in the south at all costs.
The report ends with a really poignant thought. It admits that Misool is uncomfortable and it's expensive. But it says it changes you because it looks like the world before humans ruined it.
That is such a powerful sentiment, and it suggests that the difficulty of access, the cost, the bureaucracy, that awful boat ride, the sandflies, is actually a feature, not a bug.
It's the barrier.
It is the barrier that keeps it pristine. If it were easy to get to, if there was an airport there, it would look like Bali. It would be overrun.
So the price of entry for the time machine is the suffering. The hardship is the gatekeeper.
Precisely. You have to earn the view.
So here is our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to take away. In 2026, we are so used to convenience. We want everything instant, easy, comfortable. We want the Instagram photo without the sweat and the bug bites. But consider the value of silence and the value of true isolation. Is the very difficulty of getting to a place like Misool actually the only thing that's saving it? And are you willing to endure that discomfort to see what the world used to look like?
Something to think about while you're checking your bank account.
Indeed. Check your gear, bring a spare mask. Seriously, bring two, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Safe travels.